Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Pause the video right now to check out my social media, my radio show, and thatdrummerguy.com. And most of all, enjoy the following presentation.
Hello, Josh.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi, Marko here. Yeah, all good, all good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview.
Yeah, no problems, of course.
Oh, well, awesome. Well, of course, we're here to talk about the brand new album from The Crown, Cobra Speed Venom, which is coming out the 16th of March through Metal Blade. I've just gotten the chance to be able to check this out over the past few days, and this just sounds like classic music from The Crown. I mean, I love what you guys are doing here. The speed, the technicality, the diversity that's going on here. It just feels like an unbelievable album to be able to show off in 2018.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, we actually have ourselves this sort of feeling that we sort of nailed it. It is a really good feeling because we struggled a bit with the two previous albums due to a lot of reasons, but for this time we had the right circumstances and we are super proud of this. It shows the speed, the diversity, I mean the energy and all those things that I think are necessary for our sound. So yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, not a problem. So how did the songwriting process begin for the new album?
It usually starts with song number one. We don't start out with a plan where we sort of know what sort of album we will create. It starts out with the song number one, and somewhere around song number 4 or 5, we sort of get a feeling of what we are trying to accomplish, and the feeling that we felt was that this is really intense, and we also were lucky that during this period we could rehearse a lot. So, I mean, those couple of first songs that were done, we rehearsed and tried out different stuff and, you know, messed around with a lot of ideas. So when they were done, we just felt that, wow, this is really good. So from there on, the songs just kept on coming, and somewhere around song 8, you sort of start to see the full picture, and that's where I sort of came up with, we should maybe have a soft song there as well. But in the end, it ended up with 13 songs that were sort of well rehearsed and prepared when we went into the studio.
Oh, it's great to hear that too. I mean, like, not having to worry about like any preconceived notions, but just like going in, starting with a first song, seeing what comes of it, and just being able to go from there. I mean, not having to feel like you're forced to have to write in a certain way, and just letting things come naturally.
Yeah, that has maybe been always the only way we can do it. I mean, if someone would ask me to write a super fast songs that flirts with a certain sound, I would probably end up writing a complete opposite, because it's very difficult to me to guide myself in that way. We really try to have that natural flow that, I mean, there is a sort of core element, of course, of bands that we always have liked and that sort of got us into this, but it can also be that in the sort of moment you are inspired by a sort of punkish feel for a certain sort of album you just happen to heard, and you sort of capture that, and so every album becomes absolutely a sort of time stamp, you know, where we are in our headspaces.
So with that, you were talking about that. What was the first song that eventually became onto the album?
It was actually that became our first single. The first song that we played was Iron Crown, and from there we just felt that it was really cool that it was Magnus who wrote that song, and Magnus is usually the one that sort of brings in the punkish and, you know, rock and roll elements, and that wasn't maybe so present in the past 2 albums, but I was so happy to hear that sort of raw edge to it. And we worked on it, and you know, I added some melodies to it, and it just ended up being a really good sort of guiding light for us where to go. So yeah.
Yeah, and that of course makes it a natural choice to be the first single off the album. And when you do listen to the song, I mean, it does get you very excited to see what else is going to be on the rest of the album. And when I finally got the chance to be able to check out the full album for the first time, I mean, it's a great representation without giving everything away on what's on the album.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for us, it felt like a natural choice, but then we were asked by the label to pick out 2 more songs for a single, and we just couldn't agree on any songs. So it ended up, we said to our good friend Andreas at the Metal Blade Europe office, we said that because we trust him, he's been a fan of the band even, way before 98 we signed to them. So we said, please choose 2 songs, and we will go with it, because we are a bit too close to sort of decide what is representative for the album. So it was sort of the same scenario with our previous album. We went and did a video for a track called Headhunter, and that was also the first song we did. So the first song is cool to sort of use as a first single, but then it becomes a bit more difficult, because you start to think that, okay, should we go with high energy again, or should we show the other spectrum of the band with the heaviness and whatever. So and Andrea said, hey, okay, let's go song number 2, even more faster song. So all right, let's go with Cobra Speed Venom. So that was cool.
And since you did bring up the title track, where did the title come from?
Actually, it's a title we came up with years ago. We had it around Hell Is Here, Death Is King album. It was Magnus' idea. He usually comes up with the titles and sort of artwork and ideas. And so he came up with a title, but we never used it. And when we were discussing for this album, I remember that title. I said, do you remember Cobra Speed Venom? And he was like, oh, yeah, that's true. And it was also funny because Henrik, our drummer, is pretty new, been in the band only a couple of years, so he didn't know about the past of the title. So he said, what was the title? I was like, yeah, Cobra Speed Venom. And he was like, okay, I never heard the song, but that's going to be the best song I ever heard, just because of the title. So if a new guy sort of reacts that strongly to it, so then it becomes a no-brainer.
Oh, that's just awesome, and it's great to see that something that can be around that long eventually does fit into the right circumstances, and that really is a great choice for the new album. I mean, it gives off this great intensity that really does show off the album. Yeah,
thank you. Actually, for us, it's not very common, but it happens. It has always happened that some older ideas or some, everything from riffs or titles that didn't find its place, years ago, we sort of reuse them. We find later a space for it, so it's pretty common for us. And especially on the Possessed 13 album, where we intentionally sort of dug out a lot of old riffs that never ended up on the debut album and sort of tried to work with that. So we don't forget the past. There was always I'm sure there was a good intention always when a certain riff came up, so it just needs to find its sort of place.
And with that, with the album coming out the 16th of March, how does it finally feel to be able to get this album out?
That's right now we're sort of hiatus because we're just waiting for it to get out, and it's still a month away. And I was happy that we could do those single things. And I mean, Cobra Speed Venom was just released, 2 days ago. So it's good because we're so anxious to just show people how good this band can be. And we think that we have created a really strong album. So it's going to be really exciting because there have been a lot of sort of super fans around the world that have freaked out when they heard these 2 songs, and they've been sort of waiting for us to basically get back to shape, get back in shape. So it's going to be really cool to release it.
Yeah, and I'm definitely one of those fans too. I mean, when I was able to check out the songs and when I was able to hear everything in context with the album, I mean, I just got so excited being a lifelong fan of the band, and just being able to talk about the new album and getting your insight with everything that's going on with it. It makes me so excited to be able to help promote such a great album. I mean, I can just hear the rejuvenation in the band, and it really does sound like everything was clicking as far as the songwriting and the production and everything that's going on with about the band. It's so great to see that.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I mean, that is actually true. I mean, everything just clicked from the sort of process of creating the songs and actually the whole studio thing. That was something that definitely shaped the final sort of end result, because 2 previous albums I produced them in my own studio, and with my own studio I mean basically my kitchen, or I mean things get recorded at home and it becomes a project that isn't so focused. I mean, to send files to each other and comment on ideas through emails, and we sort of tried that modern approach, but it doesn't work for us. We realized that. And also I was really interested in not producing this album, because it's a bitch, because I'm a guitar player, I'm responsible for songs, and also adding to that being responsible for the mixing and stuff like that. So it's a lot of pressure, and since those 2 previous albums were so diverse projects, I mean, I found myself being pretty alone, mixing it, and I also ended up as a drummer for the previous album, so it was a lot of pressure for me. So I really said to the guys that we need to go into a real external studio where I can be only the guitar player and enjoy the process. And we also agree that we are not going to go into the studio send in the drummer first for a couple of days and then I come in and add guitars. We're going to be there, the 5 of us, all the time, and we're going to sleep there, have fun, and that sort of definitely adds to the final product or final result. And that's how we did albums way up till Process 13. It's only the 2 previous albums that we did very differently. So and also going back to Studio Fredman, working with Fredrik that produced Process 13 and Death Race King, in my opinion one of our finest moments in the past. So it was really good to work with him, and we agreed on what sort of approach to go with this album. We didn't want anything overproduced. We want to go in and just capture our performances, play the song 1 or 2 times and that's enough, and then go on with the next song. And that gives the whole production and songs a certain edge to it. There is a sort of punkish edge to it. It's not over Dimmu Borgir produced, It's and it suits us. We have that sort of punk edge to it, and that needs to be present in the production. Otherwise, it just fails everything. So there's nothing edited and stuff like that on the album. We really went in to try to capture us. And for us, when we go up on stage and need to play this live, it's pretty easy for us, because that is the level how we can execute the songs. It's not like it's a fearful process to go up on stage and it in your stomach that shit, I can't play this riff this good. It was so edited in the studio, but this is not the case. What you hear on the album, you will hear live as well.
Yeah, I was definitely going to bring that up as well. The more that I do listen to the album, it does feel very much like an album that's meant to be played live. Like, all the songs that appear on there are just going to sound even more crushing live, but they will be songs that would be able to be performed live.
Yeah, all of the songs we can play live, so that's a good feeling also. And so that was the approach, and I'm happy we did it that way, because today, as you know, it's pretty easy to record. I can do it in my kitchen and with a drum machine or whatever, but and for some bands it's fine, but for us we need to capture a real band playing.
Again, that's what brings it back to this album just feeling like it just clicks on all the right cylinders. The fact that you guys were in the studio at the same time, writing these songs, making sure that everything was going the way that you wanted it to be, taking all of these different approaches to make sure that bringing it back to having that band feel rather than having that feel of like transferring files to one another and never really working on the songs until you go and play some live shows. This just feels like a fully true, real band album from the Crown, and it's so great to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we sort of realized, by past trial and error what actually works for this band, and it was a good counter reaction from us to, let's go back and do it for real, you know. It's also a bit the same approach with the cover artwork. I think it's also a bit of a counter reaction because, you know, nowadays it's such a shame that a lot of beautiful artwork ends up as a thumbnail, you know, on YouTube. But for us, being a bit older and done this a few times, we really appreciate that bigger vinyl format, you know, with a detailed cover and, you know, details you can stare at for hours. So that's also one of the reasons we decided to go with a very detailed cover. Because, yeah, sure, it will end up as a thumbnail for some people, but there are a lot of vinyl freaks still left, you know, that appreciate a nice cover. And that's what we're about. I mean, that's the sort of our favorite album covers from our heroes look like, so.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up too. I actually just made the album cover my wallpaper for my computer because I love the detail that's going into it. I mean, I love the colors, I love the detail that's going into it, and I really do appreciate that you guys wanted to put that much level of detail in there. And it is a shame that there is so many that just end up thumbnail size, but when you get the physical release of this album, you're really going to appreciate all the detail that went into this cover.
Yeah, and that's also cool because the guy that did the cover, Christian Sloan Hall, he actually works with a pencil, you know, a pen. He actually, you know, does that for real. It's not done everything in the computer. We tried that with our previous covers to do it, you know, 100% digital, but I mean, we're a bit old school in that way, so it was really cool to have a proper cover. And he draws with a pen, and then he imports to the computer, you know, and start messing with colors. So there is some sort of real art in there. That's maybe a stupid statement, but you know what I mean, like a real painting kind of quality to it. And also there is an idea and thought behind that, you know, monstrous wave hitting there, and with the title, and also, I mean, we could have done it blue and black, you know, a very typical thing, but I'm very happy that Christian suggested that we should have like a sunset color. So I just think it's beautiful. I was super happy to hear that Metal Bay plans to do a sort of a flag that they can sell as a special bundle, so people, if they enjoy it, they can put it on the wall, you know. So yeah, I love it. I think it's, if not it's one of our greatest covers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the more that I look at it, the more that I see the detail that goes into it, and having it so different with having more bright colors mixed in with the darkness that's going on there. I mean, it's easily one of my favorite album covers I've seen in a very long time.
Cool, thank you. Cool.
So, with all this going on, with the brand new album and everything else that's going on here, what is the current trajectory for the rest of the year?
We are right now in the middle of it, to sort of trying to plan this year and next year. Recently, today we discussed, you know, we got a pretty cool offer about a tour, and so we are in the middle of it. We have some stuff confirmed. We're gonna play here in Sweden and in the UK and some festivals in Germany, and what we are really interested in is to go to places we haven't been at all, or it was a long time ago we played. And one country was a long time ago we played is the US. We've done probably 40-50 shows there, you know, in the early 2000s with, you know, Cannibal Corpse and Darkest Hour, and some really good tours, and also up into Canada as well. So that is something we would like to do. But the current situation is that it's very difficult for us to do a sort of tour in that magnitude. It's gonna be more compressed. You know, you fly in, make 5 shows and fly home, and then you plan to have some weeks off, and then you plan the next trek. So that is what we are sort of struggling with now to set a schedule for. So yeah, some stuff confirmed. I know we're going to Japan again as well. So, but I know that we never played in Spain or Greece. I know we're getting a lot of requests from South America, but to be honest, I'm a bit scared of it. But let's see what we can do, and yeah, let's see what we can do with the US situation.
Well, I mean, regardless of what does happen, I mean, it's great to see that the worldwide touring aspect is in effect for this album? I mean, obviously Europe getting covered. I mean, if you guys are able to get some North American shows at least, I mean, that would be fantastic to see. But it's great to see that this album is going to be getting some live promotion, and it totally deserves that.
Yeah, we really want to make it work, actually. So it's the challenge is to find that balance that works, you know. We have sort of understood, since we have done this for so long time. I mean, we started with the band when we were kids. We were 14. I think the oldest one was 15. So that we have sort of realized that we want and we need to have the band in our sort of lives. But then again, the other side, we all have families, we all have, you know, jobs and, you know, normal lives as well. So we are struggling to sort of reach that balance where it works. And luckily, the booking agency we are in touch with, they understand the situation. So, yeah, we're going to make it work.
And when thinking about that, when it comes into the set list, I mean, with so many albums to be able to choose from now, I mean, is it hard to decide what songs are going to be ending up in the live setting?
Yeah, it's actually terrible. It's the biggest problem is when you get, you know, an opportunity to play at a big festival that you of course want to do, but then again you get a playing time for like 40 minutes or 45 minutes, and that is always a problem because there is a set of songs I know that people sort of demand to hear, and mostly stuff from, you know, from Death Race King and, you know, some old school shit, and of course we want to play them as well. But in the last few years we have really tried to challenge ourselves as well, and that is to include songs we have never played. So we're trying to find a combination there. But if we do a headline thing and we have about an hour and 15 minutes or something like that, it's more fun, you know, because we want to play from all the albums and also to be able to surprise with something they don't expect.
Oh yeah, and that is the great thing about being in that situation with so many albums is when you obviously do have the classics and the fan base does have their favorite songs, but when you're also able to play your favorite songs, when you're able to play those songs that haven't gotten that live representation as much, if at all, and being able to mix and match and finding that right balance, I mean, it's a fun challenge to have.
It is, and for me, I sort of got an eye-opener when I started doing sort of guitar playthroughs on our Facebook. I show how to play the songs, and I basically choose a lot of songs that I personally felt was a challenge, you know, songs that I haven't played for 10 years, and I was a bit surprised when those songs got so much feedback, you know, positive feedback. And, I love that song, but okay, we never played it live. I was a bit surprised, and so that opened up also sort of thinking that, well, people might like more than, you know, Death Explosion or Blitzkrieg Witchcraft, you know. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's we really want to keep it, you know, interesting and as well, you know.
And speaking of that, I mean, with the legacy that you guys have had and all of these amazing albums and the influence that you've had on bands that have come since the beginning of the band, how do you currently feel about the current state of metal in 2018?
Yeah, of course it's still there, it's strong, it's happening, and yeah, it's always evolving, of course, and there's always going to be the sort of old school bands there as well, and then the trends come and go, you know, and sometimes it's more popular for the old school bands, and sometimes the sort of trends switch to something that I barely understand, you know, a lot of emo core stuff, death metal. I have no idea. I don't get any sort of feeling from that type of sort of death metal hybrid with clean vocal stuff, pop thing. I have no idea what they're doing, you know. But, you know, so trends come and go, and I don't know. I get a lot of suggestions to listen to new bands, and I do. I find it interesting, of course. But I tend to always go back to a lot of the classics, you know, and those albums sort of mean a bit more for me. But I'm always interested in hearing new stuff, and I'm also very happy to see that there are bands from sort of our generation still doing really strong albums, Haunted, At the Gates, it's really cool. And also that there are our Swedish friends, so I think there's room for everyone.
Yeah, and that's always my hope when there are new trends going on in metal. I mean, especially when you guys are able to do these festival appearances. While some of the trends might be bringing in a lot of new fan bases, they might hear someone like The Crown and being able to discover this new style that they didn't know was possible that already happened. And they're able to discover new music that way. And that's always what I hope happens, because there is so much good music out there, and you never know where someone's going to be pulled in from to discover that good music.
Yeah, that is the beautiful thing with it. And some sort of tour packages, they think like that, I remember when we did our first US tour, okay, not stylistically very different, but we opened up the tour, and then there were like Crisian and Nile and Cannibal Corpse. And at that time, we were pretty unknown. But what we really felt was after we, did 20 shows and, people started to talk about us, that we really felt that we were getting good feedback as well. And that was basically new people getting into us. And I remember, I guess what someone from Cannibal or someone said to us, like, yeah, it's very uncommon that, the opening band gets that good response, So that is the beautiful thing with tour packages and festivals as well, of course. And I think we who enjoy metal, it's not like we are afraid of listening to different kind of metal. It's just that maybe it doesn't click always, and sometimes it does click, and it's beautiful. So yeah, that's probably the way for metal to sort of continue, and that's good.
Oh, absolutely. And with that, again, I mean, one thing that absolutely does click, especially with me, is the brand new album from The Crown, Cobra Speed Venom, which is coming out March 16th through Metal Blade. And again, I can't say it enough. I really love the approach that you guys went through to make sure that this is a very authentic album from The Crown, from start to finish. Whether it's the bonus tracks or the lead singles or whatever the case is, it just feels like one of the most well-rounded Crown albums to date. And it's so great to be able to see, after all this time, that you guys have not lost that edge at all, and just continue to write the best music that you guys possibly can.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's gonna be a blast to sort of release it and get the feedback from the people that, give a shit and has been following us for years. But because we have a lot of loyal fans, that it's so surprising always when I, get an email or through, social media, someone from other side of the planet, telling, yeah, I've been following you since your debut album, I got it on tape or whatever. So people that are into us seem to be really into us, and I love it, and this is the album I'm sure they will enjoy.
Oh, well, awesome. I think that's a fantastic ending point here. Thank you so very much for taking the time to talk to me about everything that you got going on in the world of Crown right now. The brand new album, upcoming live appearances and touring, and everything that's going to be continuing on for 2018, possibly into 2019, depending on how things go. I really appreciate you taking the time to be able to do this with the busy press days that have been going on, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.